Hello, this is John Rolis. I'm speaking with Sherry Honkala. She's the vice presidential candidate with the Green Party in the United States and the founder of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. My first question is regarding the arrest. People around the world are shocked that you're a vice presidential candidate and the presidential candidate. Both of you were arrested. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what happened?
Sure. Jill Stein and myself, we went down to the Commission on Presidential Debates yesterday, and we wanted to talk to somebody that was in charge, the CPD, because actually 85% of the population can now vote for us because we're on 38 ballots, and it's mathematically possible for us to win the election. So we think that it's up to the American people to decide who should be in the debates and who shouldn't be in the debates. And they decided instead to have the police officers block us from going forward, and we were arrested and taken away with police officers and Secret Service, and we were taken to a secret location where our colleagues couldn't find us, and then we sat for 8 hours with both of our hands handcuffed together, and then our arms handcuffed to a metal chair in a warehouse facility about 10 miles away from where the debates took place, and we sat there for 8 hours.
In some sort of a warehouse?
Yeah, it was some hidden location that folks didn't know about and could never in their right mind assume that we would be there. And so we had literally people calling from all around the country and, driving around and trying to find out where we were located.
Oh, my God. Other candidates, they're allowed Secret Service protection, etc. How can they get away with doing this?
That's the larger question that we have to ask ourselves. There really isn't a democracy anymore in the United States, especially when it comes to elections. Right now, the CPD is financed by 10 corporate sponsors, and a combination of those corporate sponsors and the one-party system, which is actually Democrats and Republicans that take money from corporations, they pretty much decide who gets to be a part of the process and who doesn't. So most of the folks that are watching on television have no idea that this is actually theater that's taking place. And we're really in trouble in terms of our civil liberties when Homeland Security can take money and, rent warehouses and take people that are on ballots across the country and hide them in a secret location. I think that should, send an alarm, not just to people here in this country, but around the world, because it's definitely not being covered on the media. And I think that the world has just as much to gain from a democracy in terms of the elections that are taking place here, because we're always so busy in other countries saying they need to bring democracy.
Sure. Just a reminder, you're listening to an interview with Sherry Honkala. This is unbelievable. Were you intimidated or were you told anything during the time you were detained? Can you tell us about that?
No, I mean, Jill and I are very good at knowing how to, keep to ourselves. The physical conditions were bad enough that we didn't want to make it any worse. So we were quiet. We weren't allowed to call anybody and tell anybody where we were. So that was very frustrating. We didn't know when we would get out. We didn't know if somebody would be able to find us.
That's outrageous.
And then when they finally let us out, they let us out into the cold. They had told our folks from the campaign that had worked very hard and found where we were, that if they sat in the vehicle in front of the location that we were at, that they would be arrested. So they drove a couple blocks down and parked at a restaurant, and so we came out into the cold of the night, and we didn't have any money, and we had to walk to a local gas station and try to find somebody with a cell phone to try and call for help.
Oh, my God. Now, officially, were you charged with something? Or, how can they do this? Did they charge you with anything?
Yeah, they charged us with disorderly conduct, but it was very clear that the whole goal was to make sure that Jill and I were nowhere near any media during the presidential debate so that we couldn't talk about this mockery that is happening in this country.
For our listeners, we have a global audience. so not all of them are clear on the debate system in the United States. And I'm sure it seems odd that you as presidential and vice presidential candidates are not allowed to take part. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, the League of Women Voters used to be in charge of the debate process in this country, and now the Commission on Presidential Debates has taken over the process. And like I said earlier, they are financed by 10 corporations. And so basically the Democrats and the Republicans agree upon what questions not to ask each other. And so it's like 90% of the questions that the American people would want to hear don't end up getting asked, like questions having to do with our prison population, like the issues of climate change, like the push towards the privatization of schools. Those things don't get talked about in our country. Instead, things, like Big Bird and whether or not Obama had a press conference at an inappropriate time, these are the things that get talked about, not, wars for oil or the fact that we have so much money in the elections process. And the reason why debates are important to us here in this country is because both Democrats and Republicans have campaigns that they spend billions of dollars on. And just to give an example, President Obama had Nancy Pelosi. She participated in 275 fundraisers, and there's only 365 days a year, so I don't really know how she was able to serve her constituency as an elected official. And she's only one, leader in the Democratic Party here. So we really need outside international media to be monitoring and covering what's happening here, because we also don't have freedom of the press. The corporate media here is not going to cover the corporate elections. And so we're really trying to fight here to bring democracy, both in terms of access to the press, access to debate, and we're trying to catch up with the rest of the world that has 3, 4, 5, like in Finland, 15 different political parties, that we become a healthier nation when we have a democratic process.
You were listening to an interview with Sherry Honkola, the vice presidential candidate of the Green Party in the United States and the founder of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. Thanks for listening.